Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Thanks very much, everybody, for joining me once again. Sad Sadiq here for PakPassion.net, bringing you another exclusive interview with big name in the world of fast bowling cricket coaching. And he's a former Essex pacer. He's coached all around the world, Bangladesh Premier League, the PSL, and many other countries. He's renowned for his work with pace bowlers all over the globe. I mean, I remember seeing him coaching Shoaib Akhtar back in the day, and recently he's still coaching all around the world with young pacers. He's got his own fast bowling academy here in the UK where he's churning out and producing a lot of fantastic pace bowlers. And as I say, he's a renowned top international bowling coach, pace bowling coach, and somebody who knows about the art of fast bowling. The one and only Ian Pont. Ponty, nice to be chatting to you again.
Such is great to hear you. Great intros. I love your intros. Thank you so much.
Well, you know what, Ponty? The intros are fact. So, you know, you're well known around the world for your knowledge about pace bowling. And I think why people like to listen to you and watch what you've got to say is because of that technical knowledge. You know, I think when it comes to fast bowling, us Pakistanis, we love our pace bowlers. And I think that's why people like to listen to you.
Well, I think just cutting across you there a little bit, Saj. Actually, this probably formed part of our conversation about the technical part of fast bowling, which traditionally hasn't really been focused on too much. So we'll dive a little bit into that, I think, in this chat.
Yes, hopefully. Well, we're going to start with a non-Pakistani pace bowler who I want to talk to you a little bit about, Ponty. And he's a bowler who's, I mean, he's, you know, renowned at the moment. He's like loved by everybody around the world. He's such a fantastic bowler. Jasprit Bumrah. Why is he so good? I know it's a broad question, but what makes him so difficult for batters to face?
His big advantage is that he gets, well, two things really. He gets very close to the batter before he releases the cricket ball. So if you close the distance, like if the two cars accelerating towards each other and you close the distance, it's harder to get out of the way when it's right on top of you. So if you have a bowler that's bowling closer to you, it feels as if the ball's coming out faster, but the speed gun is actually saying, let's say 145, which is quick enough, but it's hitting the bat like 155 or 150. It feels quicker. And sometimes you see a batsman, he'll play a ball from Bumrah and you think he's really been rushed for speed. What he's been rushed for is time, the difference. So when we look at the raw speed of a bowler, actually example, if you bowled from 35 meters instead of 20, you're going to be slow, aren't you? Because by the time it gets to the batter, it's got no speed at all. So that advantage he has is, and it's also driven by the shape of his arm. And this has caused a lot of consternation. It's caused a lot of discussion around the world between bowling experts, commentators, fans, even players themselves. Because he has a hyperextension, he has a hypermobile elbow, he's able to bend the elbow in a different direction to most people. And that gives him a huge advantage because what it allows him to do is to basically have the top part of his arm going first, and then the elbow, it bends forwards, but it's bent forward from it's hard to explain, but it looks like a bow and arrow in his arm. And what that allows him to do perfectly legally, it's illegal, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just the way his arm is formed. It allows him to have that almost slingshot, like a catapult effect. So not only does he use his shoulder joint and his wrist joint, because we all flick the wrist, he uses the elbow joint, which we're not allowed to do as bowlers usually, because we have to keep it locked and straight. Because his elbow bends forwards effectively, excuse me, he has what's called forward flexion. And that creates that kind of that real whip. So his speed comes from that final movement, and he bowls close. So you've got two factors at play. I mean, the other thing as well is, technically speaking, with a straight front leg, which has got a very straight front leg, he braces and bowls against the leg. That also creates like a driving force towards the batter. And he does all of those naturally. I mean, I don't think he's been taught that. I think that's how he bowls. And it's great to have. I mean, it doesn't matter which country he comes from. It's great to have a bowler that good playing world cricket right now. All three formats, he's incredible.
I want to talk to you about Mohammad Abbas, Ponty. We know about Abbas's strengths. We know about his pace. Recently made a comeback after 3 years in Test cricket in South Africa and had a good series. A bowler like Mohammad Abbas in Pakistan, we're obsessed with pace. We want these 150 kph bowlers. What do you make of Mohammad Abbas and his strengths?
Well, when he came to England and played in county cricket, he was terrific. He's quite what I would call an English seamer. He can swing a cricket ball. He can seam a cricket ball. So he's able to, and there's a difference between the two. A swing bowler like a Jimmy Anderson is always searching for a length. He's always looking to get the batter to drive at the ball. A Stuart Broad is more of a length bowler and he brings it back a little bit. So he's looking for the batter to go half and half. I think Mohammad Abbas has the ability to work out the pitch quite quickly. Now, if you park his speed up for a second, skill-wise, he's probably one of the most talented bowlers that you have in Pakistan. I think he's very skilled. The other thing, he's very disciplined. So if he's not going for a lot of runs, he's hopefully bowling quite a few maidens. If you remember back to Sean Pollock, back in those great days when Alan Donald was bowling, and Donald was really quick, and Pollock settled into that rhythmical line and length, just hit the top of off stump, as we coaches like to say. But I had a box of tricks. And I think Mohammad Abbas is someone who has the ability to do that. So he's definitely an asset. I think it's a bit horses for courses. You'd probably pick him where you know the surfaces are going to be helpful. If it's a fast, bouncy pitch, you may not be picking him in Brisbane, as an example. But if you're playing on pitches that just nibble a little bit, they've got a bit in them, you're going to throw him the ball because he's finding that area and finding a way to get the batter out. I really like the guy. I think he's a terrific bowler.
At the moment in Pakistan cricket, Ponty, we've got a problem, although people won't admit to it, where we're finding that our pacers in the first innings of a test match, 140 kph plus. Second innings, 135 kph on average. 5 kph, some people say, oh, it's not a big difference, but at the highest level, it's a big difference. And you'll know that as much as anybody else. Is it a stamina thing or is it something else? You must have noticed it yourself.
It's sometimes a problem like that could have multiple answers. I mean, if you go down the route of over bowling, fitness, injury, that's one thing. There's a secondary issue which you can't really put your finger on, but I'm going to say it's heart and desire. Now, if you threw the ball to Shoaib Akhtar in a second inning Pindi on a flat pitch, he would still be coming in. He would still be running in because there's a Rawalpindi Express and there was some subtlety to the way Shoaib bowled, but not a lot because he was a sledgehammer. And you threw in the ball because you know he's going to blast the wall down. In a similar way now, we have Mark Wood playing for England. Mark Wood is a similar type of bowler. He's not as quick as Shoaib was, but he's a similar type of bowler. He's bowled 97 miles per hour. A lot of his deliveries are north of 90 miles an hour. And in spite of the pitch conditions, he's coming in. Now, that doesn't answer your question as to why the Pakistani pacers are slower in the second innings. But I'm kind of floating the concept that perhaps they get disheartened. You know, if you're taking wickets in the first innings, you're on a buzz, you're on a high, things are great. But if you're in the dirt for 2 days and the opposition have got 500 and plenty, it's very, very difficult to come out again and bowl quickly, particularly if the surface isn't doing much. A couple of catches have gone down. It's very hot. I know we can't, cricketers play in the sunshine. But all of these factors affect us mentally. So this might not be a physicality issue. This might be a desire issue. Now, I'm not saying they don't have desire. I don't mean that. Fast bowling is really hard. I mean, it's of all the disciplines, it's the hardest of all. And this isn't sort of playing a little mini violin and saying poor old fast bowlers. But I've played, not at this level, but I've played first-class cricket after bowling 28, 30 overs in a day. You take your boots off at the end of the day. You don't want to see a cricket ball for a couple of weeks. I mean, you just don't. And I played in games where the opposition have followed on and the captain's come in and said to the bowlers, "Are you ready to go again?" And you don't want to because you're just absolutely finished. So sometimes it's you don't have that, yeah, I'm ready to go again. And I'm not saying that's the case here, but it's a point that we often overlook because we look to stats and say, have they done enough workload? Are they overloaded? It might actually be what's inside the heart sometimes because it is very difficult to keep that speed going. And Saj, let me say this. It's a rare breed of fast bowler like Shoaib. I mean, we've been spoilt with Shoaib Akhtar that comes out day after day after day after day and is a train. I mean, that is unusual. Because at the end of the day, we're humans, the body hurts. You know, it really hurts the body, but that's no excuse. It's just fact. So maybe some of it's up here, maybe some of it's physical. Who knows? It's a hard one, though. It's a challenge to work that out.
I was speaking to a couple of former first-class players recently, one Pakistani, one English, and they were both saying the same thing. They're saying that fast bowling or out-and-out fast bowling is on the decline. Now, the number of pace bowlers who were hitting 145 kph plus to 150 has declined. I know you've mentioned Mark Wood and there's one or two others, but overall, if you look at it, in the world of cricket at the moment, the number of pacers who can hit that 150 kph mark, next to none, isn't it? Are you concerned about that, Ponty, and what do you think is the reason?
I'll answer this another way, actually. I don't think since the Bodyline series in the 1930s and 1940s, we've produced any more fast bowlers than we did 90 years ago. I don't think we have. I think what's actually happened is that, and I'm not blaming white ball cricket, but you don't have to bowl fast to be a success in white ball cricket. In fact, you take the speed off. We talk about pace off, pace off, pace off all the time. If you're a young boy growing up, I'll talk about English cricket for a second. You're a young lad growing up in English cricket. You're not going to play 3 and 4 day cricket unless you're a pro. School, club, college, university is all 1 day stuff. And I'm guessing the same is true in Pakistan. You know, you're not necessarily going to play the longer version of the game where you're going to have to bowl 25 plus overs. You're bowling 4 overs or 10 overs at a time. Now, you'd think, well, that means I can run in fast and let it go. No, because the batters are using that pace sometimes because what's happened is the batting techniques and skills have dramatically increased. Bowling skills have gone up a little bit, but it's mostly gone up with slower balls because even now, I think the most devastating ball you can bowl at the death is a Yorker. I'm sorry, I'm old fashioned. I think it's the hardest ball to hit. Someone wants to ramp me and I'm bowling 90 miles an hour. Good luck. You know, if they do it, fine. But that doesn't stop me bowling a Yorker. The amount of bowlers that I've spoken to as a coach, and I say, what's your ball at the death? It's slow ball bouncer, it's wide of off stump. The Yorker seems to have disappeared. I know other commentators have said this, but when you start taking away the 2 deliveries a fast bowler has, a bouncer and a Yorker, if you eradicate those, you're just a bowling machine. And I think the problem is you put pace on the cricket ball, you bowl 150 clicks, it's disappearing. And that, I think, it's the way we play the game of cricket. Now, am I sad about that? Yeah, I am, because I think speed of itself is an asset. If you can bowl 160 clicks, if you can be a Shoaib Akhtar, I mean, Virat Kohli said this many times, you know, speed unravels the best batting technique. And he's right. Because if you bowl quickly, so I mentioned Jasprit Bumrah earlier, he's so fast onto the bat. I mean, imagine adding 10 Ks to that. You know, you're thinking about your physical, you know, you're worried about getting hurt. You're not worried about scoring runs. You're thinking, can I get out of the way of it? That element of the game is going out. You know, I'm afraid to bat against this bowler because he's too fast. I used to play in the 1980s. The West Indies had these great fast bowlers. We were very fortunate in county cricket. We had 2 fast bowlers every county. Wherever you went, it was quick bowlers bowling bouncers at you. Unlimited bouncers. The umpire would stand with a box of popcorn and just watch. You know, it was just box office. Now it's sanitized. And it's sanitized in a way where it allows for speed, but it doesn't encourage it because that isn't really what we're looking to bowl dot balls all the time, aren't we? We sometimes, Saj, in white ball cricket, we're not even looking to take wickets. Sometimes we're
I
looking to
was
bowl.
going to say, Ponty, that the lure of white ball cricket, I think, is affecting the priorities of pacers, and they're bowling within themselves, which is something that I think you've just touched upon there.
Yeah, they are, and they're spending a lot of time learning, and which is great for the game. But they're spending a lot of time learning lots of different deliveries that are not speed on the ball. You know, I run the National Fast Bowling Academy here in the UK. We have a lot of young bowlers coming through. We teach, obviously, we teach the technical aspects of them, and then we get into the new year, which is now, and we focus more on outcomes. So the season's coming in 3 months' time. So we focus on where the ball's going rather than what they're doing. And this involves all the fingers and thumbs, finger pressures, wobble seam, scramble seam, back of that. All of that great stuff is now coming. So we have to teach that because they can't just go out and blast it down there without total control because they will get taken apart. But you can still bowl a raging long hop off speed and get away with it. But it's very hard.
And I think what we're finding in Pakistan, Ponty, is now that the young pacers that are coming through, their focus is more on T20 franchise leagues rather than playing in the Qaiid-e-Azam Trophy. I mean, I was having a conversation with one of the current Pakistan coaches, and the interview will be out in a couple of days. He's a domestic coach for one of the first-class teams. And he was saying that a lot of the young bowlers nowadays, they haven't got the stamina or the willpower to want to play in the Qaiid-e-Azam Trophy and bowl 30, 35 overs in a match. What they want is the 4 overs every few days, raking the money.
Well, you know, why would you want to bowl 30 plus overs? I mean, that's the point. And you know, this is a desire driven by finances, and I'm a big fan of that. I think players should be rewarded and remunerated very, very well. You know, we bring in the spectators, the TV rights, all the rest of it. It should go to players. I don't disagree with any of that. But the drive for T20 and even T10, I mean, which is, I'm not going to comment on T10, but it's just, you know, it ends up being a silly game of cricket. The people are throwing money at those competitions, and there are people getting paid large sums of money to bowl very few deliveries compared to someone who's bowling in a test match where you could argue needs to have that skill level and discipline and understanding and nuances and field settings. And we talk about field placing in T20 and bowling to fields, but it's 1 or 2 overs. In test cricket, it's like a chess match. That part, this is why the purists love test cricket, because it encapsulates everything to do with the game. It's just so why it's so absolutely wonderful sport. T20 is baseball, basically. It's a sanitized version of cricket. And I get why the young lads don't want to bowl, but actually it's that we've created the monster ourselves because there's so much cash in it that why would you want to bowl more than 4 overs at a time?
And finally, Ponty, whilst we say that there's a lack of genuine out-and-out pace bowlers currently in international cricket, certainly in some countries, but then you've got the likes of South Africa, Australia, and you've got to say England, churning out these high-quality pace bowlers year after year. Why is that?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, this probably goes back to when cricket started. If you think of England, South Africa, England, Australia, the Ashes series way back in the 1880s, Test cricket started with England, Australia, and I'm going to include South Africa in this. They've changed their system slightly, but the domestic system is terrific. You know, there were years when the Australian Shield system copied the county system, and then there were years when the county cricket system copied the Australian Shield system. And what we were doing is we were looking at how they domestically performed. We used to say in England, if you had a strong Yorkshire team, you had a strong England side. And you know why I'm saying that, because the players in county cricket had to prove themselves to get selected nationally. So there was a lot of emphasis, and there still is, on county cricket, on Shield cricket, on state cricket in South Africa. It's important that you do well to get the opportunity. Now, if someone isn't doing that, they can still get picked up the line, but it isn't about you bowl well in the nets. It's did you perform over a season at these levels against these players? So I think I can't comment on Pakistan. I don't know what the domestic system is like in that sense. It might be improving. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm saying that you mentioned specifically England, South Africa, and Australia producing quicks. I think we have a system that has always done that. And it wasn't from tape ball cricket. It was genuinely done from school, from club, university, college, into first class cricket. And you had to earn every level to go to the top. I mean, it's a hierarchical structure, or it should be. And if you do well, you go up. I mean, as simple as. The bottom line for me, Pakistan has always produced great fast bowlers. My concern is they break down a lot, and sometimes you see somebody, it's like a firework. They big flash, a big bang, and you never see them again. And that bothers me a little bit because Pakistan should be dominating world cricket with the amount of quicks they produce. But where are they all? And do they maintain their fitness in a game? And will we see them over a long period of time? Some bowlers we hear about and we don't hear of them again. And it's a shame.
Well, it's an interesting point you make just to finish off, Ponty, is, we've seen the likes of Isanullah break down with an elbow injury. Many others come and go. Even the likes of Naseem Shah's been in and out of the team. Shaheen Shah Afridi has had his injury problems. We just can't seem to have our pace bowlers in Pakistan playing regularly. They're sort of in and out the team, and there's question marks over their fitness, and it's just a conveyor belt of pace bowlers coming, going, and then they're not at that optimum level that they should be.
Well, when that happens, that tends to be systematic, which implies it's the system rather than it's a problem with the bowlers themselves. I'm not blaming systems necessarily. I'm just saying usually if your structure is strong and it's effective, you'll always have people that come and go, but that will take people on a journey. If this isn't really structured that well, or it's shifting sands, it's moving around, if you're caught in that, even as a great player, you're like, whoa, I don't know what's happening here. And sometimes you get a bit lost to the game. And I would always look at how a system is structured. So is a system good? The coach is educated. Are we looking after the health and fitness of our players? Not just sort of saying it piecemeal, but we're actually doing it. Are the right people at the right levels doing it for the good of the game and not themselves or people that they know or their family? So that needs to go. And then once you have that system, the talent is there in Pakistan. And you guys in Pakistan that are watching this must be sick of hearing the talent. But there literally is. English cricket doesn't have that talent, yet we produce what we produce. So, yeah, I often look at the structure and say, maybe that needs an overhaul.
Ponty, always a pleasure listening to your views. I mean, we could talk for hours about pace bowling, but I think we'll save some of the questions and points for the next time we have a chat with you. As I say, really appreciate your time, and keep up the good work with all the young guys that you're working with and young girls that you're working with at your academy.